Yo, what's going on guys? ESG here with a new FPL video. In today's video I'm going to be going through the teams with the best opening fixtures over the first 5 game weeks and some players to target from each team and ones to keep an eye on. As always, if you do enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. And with that being said, let's get into it. So the first team that I'm going to be looking at today is Aston Villa. They've got a really nice run of fixtures for the first 7 game weeks, but I'm only going to look at the first 5 for this video. So to start off with, you have West Ham away first game, which is really nice. And then Arsenal at home. Arsenal at home is going to be a tricky one, but last season Villa did beat Arsenal when they were at home, so it could be a nice fixture. Not expecting too many goals, but I'd like to see Watkins maybe get a goal in that game, or at least a clean sheet if it's 0-0. But then after that, they've got Leicester away, Everton at home, and Wolves at home. 3 really good fixtures. I think in week 6 they then have Ipswich as well. So Villa are a really nice team to target for those first few game weeks. And the players that I've gone for to focus on are Maatsen and Leon Bailey. So I'm going to look at Maatsen first. We don't have too much information for Maatsen, as he's a new signing for them and he didn't play in the Premier League much last season. He started off at Chelsea at the beginning of the season and didn't play much at all. I think he got 1 start. So there's not really anything to go off for that. In January, he then went on loan to Borussia Dortmund, where he started near enough every game, and he was playing on that left-hand side, and even though he was a left-back, he was getting forward an awful lot. He got a few assists. I think he might have got 1 or 2 goals as well, so we definitely want to keep an eye on, especially if Alex Moreno or Utd does end up leaving Villa this summer. I think Maatsen will be a frequent starter for them, so he's definitely one to keep an eye on, especially in pre-season. The other player that I've gone for is Leon Bailey, and as you can see there on the heat map, he gets forward a lot, and he is on some set pieces now and again, so I'm really liking him. He got 22 starts last season and got 10 goals and 11 assists. Most of those starts came in the second half of the season as well, and with Diaby potentially on his way out, Bailey should get a lot more game time this season than he did last season, so I'm definitely keeping an eye on him, especially for 6.5 million this season. I think he's a really nice player to be looking at. So up next, we do have Chelsea, who have a really nice run of fixtures apart from that week 1 game. So that week 1 game, they've got Man City at home. Last season, it was a high-scoring fixture. I expect it to be similar again, but I do expect City to win it this time. But other than that, the fixtures that they have are really nice. They've got Wolves away second week, then Palace at home, then Bournemouth away, then West Ham away, which are 4 really nice fixtures. And then in week 6 and 7 as well, they have really favourable fixtures. So they're definitely a team to be watching in pre-season to see how they are lining up under the new manager. And I think that you can get a lot of points from Chelsea assets at the beginning of the season. So the 2 players that I've focused on are Gusto and Palmer. So starting off with Gusto, Reece James is suspended for the first 3 games of the season. So no matter what, Gusto should be starting those 3 games. I know that they won't keep a clean sheet against Man City, so maybe not the best to start him there. But then against Wolves and Palace, 100% they could get a clean sheet and Gusto could get an assist or even a goal. So definitely one to keep an eye on. I know he only got 74 points last season in 19 starts, but last season Chelsea keeping clean sheets just wasn't happening. If you look there, Gusto got 6 assists last season in 19 starts. I think this season, if he's starting those first few games with the fixtures that they have, he could get 1 or 2 clean sheets and assists, which he'll return in both ways for you there. So definitely want to keep an eye on with Reece James being suspended. The other player is Cole Palmer. He's the most expensive Chelsea asset in the game. On penalties, got 22 goals last season, 9 of them being penalties though, so if you take that away, it's only 13 outside of penalty goals, and then 13 assists. 29 starts because he wasn't there at the start of the season. He went at the end of the summer transfer window. But again, definitely one that I am eyeing up for my team. I know I have Nkunku there at the minute, but I think Palmer may end up sneaking his way in because of the fixtures that they have. I'm not expecting them to get as many penalties this season as they did last season, but 100% Palmer is that player that you are wanting. But again, I want to see where he's playing in pre-season first. I know for the first part of pre-season he probably won't be there, as he was on a late run in the Euros, but when he does start to play in pre-season, I want to be watching where he's playing and how he's playing. But I'm not expecting him to be as central as last season. I'm more expecting him to be as a winger, so it may just be assists and penalties rather than goals. But let me know what you think in the comments for that. So up next we do have Crystal Palace, who have a decent run of fixtures. I wouldn't say it's the best, but definitely some nice fixtures in there to be keeping an eye on. So they've got Brentford away first game, which could be a clean sheet if Tony does leave Brentford, so that's one to keep an eye on. Then I have West Ham at home, Chelsea away, which will be a difficult one, Leicester at home, which is really nice, and then Man United at home, which could go either way. So they've got 5 really nice fixtures there to be keeping an eye on, other than that Chelsea game, maybe the United game, but we don't know how Man United are going to be playing in the season. So that's one to keep an eye on later on down the line. But the two players I'm focusing on here are Eze and Anderson for two different reasons. So I'm going to start off with Eze. Because Elise has left Crystal Palace now, Eze will have to step into it a lot more, and I think he'll get a lot more game time than he did last season. He got 24 starters last season, but he was injured for a portion of the season, hence why he didn't start every game. But in those 24 starts, he got 11 goals and 5 assists with 9.12 expected goals, which is really nice for more of an attacking midfielder role. I think with Elise gone, he's going to probably play on that right hand side, maybe the left hand side, not too sure yet. But I know for a fact Mateta will be through the middle. But with Mateta playing in the France not World Cup, Olympic squad, the final for that is only around the 11th or the 9th or the 11th of August. So there's a chance that Mateta won't be starting those first few games, meaning Eze will come into it a lot more. And if they get some penalties maybe in those first 2 games, I think Eze would be the one to take it if Mateta's not playing. So definitely one to keep an eye on in pre-season. With Mateta not being there to see if Eze is on penalties and set pieces. I know Eze does take set pieces now and again anyway, especially corners and free kicks. So definitely one that I'm keeping an eye on for my squad, and at 7 million, I don't think you can go wrong. The next player is Anderson. He started every game last season, and I expect him to do the same again. I'm definitely going for a Palace defender in my initial team, but I don't know if to go for Gahey or Anderson. And at the minute, I think I'm going to lean more towards Anderson because he is much more of a goal threat from set pieces. If you look there, he got 2 goals last season, which came from set pieces, and 3 assists. I'm expecting this season it to be similar, if not more. And with 38 starts, he started every game last season. He's got to do the same again this season, unless they bring in another defender, which I can't see happening because I think defensively, Palace are alright, especially under the new manager. They got 10 clean sheets last season, and that was with Roy Hodgson as the manager for the first half of the season. Once I think it's Glasner came in, they kept a lot more clean sheets and they were a lot more solid defensively. And this season, I think with Glasner being there from the start, it'll be so much better for them, and they'll keep a lot more clean sheets. The fixtures though that I'm looking at, the clean sheets, are probably the Brentford game, the West Ham game, and the Leicester game. I can't really see them keeping one against United or Chelsea, but there is that chance against United. Definitely not against Chelsea, unfortunately, but against United at home especially, could potentially keep a clean sheet. And with Anderson starting every game last season and potentially starting every game this season, definitely one to keep an eye on. So the next team that I'm going to be looking at is Fulham. Again with Fulham, it's the same as Palace. They have some really nice fixtures in there, but then 1 or 2 difficult ones. But overall, they look really nice. So the first game is away against Man United. That's definitely going to be a tricky one, especially at the start of the season with United probably having something to prove. But after that, it gets really nice. They've got Leicester at home, Ipswich away, and West Ham at home, but then Newcastle at home. So the United and Newcastle games might be a little bit tougher, but Leicester, Ipswich, and West Ham are really, really nice fixtures in there, especially against 2 promoted sides. I don't think you can go wrong. So starting off with Leno, I know he's coming in at 5 million this season, but definitely one, if you are going for a 5 million goalkeeper, definitely one to keep an eye on. 10 clean sheets last season. It's about right. He started every game, so this season he's going to start every game, definitely. He gets a lot of save points as well, which I do like in a goalkeeper. If you look there, he got 133 points last season, which for a goalkeeper is around about right. So for a 5 million goalkeeper, I'm just going to keep it short on him because it is a goalkeeper, but for 5 million, you can't really go wrong with Leno. Then the only other one would maybe be Pickford or Martinez. So it's up to you in that sense. The next player is Anthony Robinson. I know I touched on him a little bit in my last video, but I'm going to look at him again today because I do think he is that asset, especially at 4.5. If you want a Fulham player, he's definitely one to be looking at. So he's coming in at 4.5 this season, and last season he got 37 starts, so he started near enough every game, Only 6 assists, unfortunately, but I think this season with those opening fixtures, he could get more. And if you look at the heat map there, he plays as that left back role, but pushes forward an awful lot. If you see like the red zone in the heat map, majority of it is in the attacking half, especially on that left wing. So he does get forward a lot and gets those crosses into the box um, to whoever the striker is, whether it's Muniz or Jimenez. So definitely one to be keeping an eye on. I'm going to be keeping an eye on him in pre-season to see if he is getting forward as much as he was last season. But he's definitely one that's on my watch list and could be making his way into my draft for game week 1, ready to start him in game week 2 and 3 with those promoted sides being the fixtures that they've got. But let me know your thoughts in the comments about that. So coming up next, we do have Liverpool. They've got 5 really nice fixtures here to start the season. So they've got Ipswich away first game. I can't really see it being much of a challenge for them. Am I expecting a clean sheet? Absolutely not. It's Liverpool against the promoted side, and it's a 12:30 game. Of course, they're not going to keep a clean sheet, but they should be winning that game against the newly promoted side. Then have Brentford at home, Man United away, Nottingham Forest at home, and Bournemouth at home. So really nice fixtures there. That United game will be tough because it is away and it's at Old Trafford. But I'd like to see them winning every game there, so they should be getting 15 points out of 15 for those games. The players that I'm focusing on are McAllister and Darwin Núñez for different reasons, but I will go into it. So with McAllister, I think if you look at that Liverpool midfield, McAllister is the only one that you can say he's probably guaranteed to be a starter. The rest of them I do think would be rotated out of Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Sobert Sly, Carvalho coming back, by Chetic being the Endo. So I think McAllister is that only one that you can probably say, yeah, he's a definite starter. He's just won the Copa America with Argentina and played really well there. So I think even though he's having a little bit of a break now, won't be playing too much in pre-season, but 100% he should be starting majority of games. He won't be on penalties, unfortunately, or on any set pieces, but I don't think he'll be playing as deep as he was under Klopp. I think under the new manager, he'll be getting forward a lot more. And if you saw him when he played for Brighton a few seasons ago, when he was playing in more of a centre mid or centre attacking midfield role, he does get a lot of goals from outside of the box. And I think he could do that this season if he's playing as far forward as I think he's going to be. He definitely won't be playing as a defensive midfielder like Klopp was playing him. He would definitely want to be keeping an eye on, especially if he is getting forward as much as people think he will. He could be a really nice asset at 6.5 million to go for. The other player is Darwin Núñez. Last season, he didn't start every game. He came off the bench and was an impact sub. The only thing that let him down last season was his finishing. He would be one-on-one with the goalkeeper and he would either hit it straight at the goalkeeper or hit it wide. If you look there, he got 11 goals and 11 assists, but his XG was 16.23, which is even more than the goals that he got. So if he can find his goal scoring form, 100% he is an excellent asset to go for. It's just will he find that form and hit the target? In the Copa America for Uruguay, he was playing really well. He scored a lot of goals. I think he was Uruguay's top scorer, which doesn't surprise me at all. But he needs to carry that over into the league, and if he does, he's 100% one to be keeping an eye on. Again, though, because he went on a late run in Copa America, he's not going to be playing as much in pre-season, so we're not going to learn too much about how Slot is playing him. So maybe hold off for the first couple of games. Then if he is starting and playing forward, then maybe look to bring him in instead of maybe an Isak or a Watkins when their games start to get a little more tough. But definitely one to be keeping an eye on. So the next team that I'm going to look at is Man City. As always with Man City, even games that look tough for them, often on the pitch they make look really easy. So they've got Chelsea away first game. On paper it looked really tough, but last season they drew with Chelsea twice, and I'm expecting the same this season. And they were both high scorers, so I think this season as well it will be another high scorer. They then have Ipswich at home, West Ham away, and Brentford at home. 3 really nice fixtures, especially for a lot of returns from City assets. And then Arsenal at home, again, it'll be a tough game. Could be a 0-0, maybe a 1-1, so I'm not expecting too many returns. But that's not the fixture that I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on those middle 3 of Ipswich, West Ham and Brentford. Especially against Ipswich, that should be a high scorer. Newly promoted team and at home. I don't think you can go wrong with that. So I think having 1 or 2 City assets is needed. So the 2 that I'm looking at here are Foden and Gvardiol. They are both in my current draft. So I'll start off with Phil Foden. 33 starters last season, 230 points, 19 goals and 8 assists. Really, really, really nice returns from Foden there. And I think this season he'll replicate it, if not do better. I think he'll be starting near enough every game like he did last season, and he'll be playing in that forward role like he was. I think he was playing like as a right centre attacking midfielder last season, and I'm expecting similar this season. So 100% want to be keeping an eye on. He might not be playing much in pre-season, as again he went on a late run in the Euros, but I don't think Foden really needs a pre-season. He'll definitely be in that week one team, and especially against Ipswich at home, he should be playing in that and can definitely return. With Haaland being 15 million, I think if you're wanting a cheaper City attacker, Foden is one to be looking at and going for, because it saves you 5.5 million. He's coming in at 9.5, so it saves you 5.5 million, and he's a midfielder, so you can go for a completely different forward line in FPL. So definitely an interesting one to keep an eye on. The next player is Gavardiol. He didn't start that many games last season at the beginning of the season, but towards the end he was starting near enough every game. And I think out of the City defenders, Gavardiol's the only one that you can look at and say is probably going to start near enough every game. I think the rest of them will just be rotated constantly, like Ake, Ruben Diaz, Akanji, all them, they will be rotated. So if you look at Gavardiol, he got 4 goals, 2 assists. They all came in the second half of the season because he was playing more of a left wing position. If you look at the heat map there, he was hugging that left side a lot, but the majority is in a left wing position. I think this season, if he's doing the same in pre-season, he's going to be doing it in the league. And with those middle fixtures of Ipswich, West Ham, and Brentford, he's definitely one to be keeping an eye on because he's 100% going to be getting into those forward positions for those games. You know they are. I can't see those 3 teams attacking too much, so it will be a lot more defensive, allowing him to get forward. So 100% want to be keeping an eye on in pre-season. So up next we do have Manchester United with some really nice fixtures. So you've got Fulham at home for the first game, then Brighton away for the second game, but then that third game is really tough against Liverpool at home. Even though they're at home, I'm not expecting a clean sheet. It could be a draw, but I am probably expecting a Liverpool win there. But it does depend how they are lined up under the new manager. So again, that Liverpool game could go either way, really. Then Southampton away, which is a really nice game. Then Palace away. So Fulham at home. First game of the season. It's starting off the season on that Friday night football. So definitely one to be looking at. I think United should be winning that game. Whether they keep a clean sheet, I'm not too sure, but I think it should be in the range of 2-0, maybe 2-1. Brighton away, again, they should be winning that. A new manager for Brighton, I don't think there's really any excuses. Liverpool at home, very tough game. They always tend to struggle against Liverpool. I know that they beat them at home last season, so it could be the same this season, especially under a new manager for Liverpool. So it's one to keep an eye on with how Man United are playing in those first 2 games before you bring anybody in for that game. Southampton away is a brilliant fixture. It's a newly promoted team. United should be winning that. Then Palace away. Defensively, Palace can be really strong, so it could be a 0-0, maybe a 1-0 to Palace. But again, United would be favourites going into that game to win it. So if we look at the players that I'm focusing on here, I've gone for Bruno Fernandes and Garnacho. So Bruno Fernandes, he's going to be on penalties. He was on penalties last season for United, probably will be this season. 35 starts last season, 10 goals, 9 assists. I think majority of them were probably penalty goals. I've not really looked into that too much, but I know for a fact that he will be on penalties this season. So if you are wanting a penalty taker from United, Bruno is the one to go for 8.5 million as well. I don't think you can really go wrong. I know Rashford's 7 million, so it's 1.5 million cheaper. However, I'm not too sure he'd be guaranteed as much game time with Garnacho being so good last season. So Bruno is definitely that one to keep an eye on for penalties. Then looking at Garnacho, 30 starters last season, 131 points, 7 goals, 7 assists. A lot of those assists were when he managed to win a penalty, because you do get an assist now for winning a penalty. But again, because he can play either side on the left or the right, I think he's probably a guaranteed starter for that United team. And I think he'll be getting forward a lot more than last season. I think he'll be taking on a lot more players. I think he'll be a lot more confident than last season. So another one to definitely keep an eye on. So the next team that I'm going to be looking at is Newcastle. Again, they've got a really nice run of fixtures to open the season for them. So the first game they've got Southampton at home. At home against a newly promoted side, I don't think you can get much better than that for the first game of the season. So a definite one that you're going to want some Newcastle assets for. They then have Bournemouth away, which could be a bit of a tricky fixture, but again, you would be expecting Newcastle to win that game, and it could hopefully be a high score, maybe 3-0, 3-1, something like that. So one to be looking at. Tottenham at home. Tottenham played well last season at the start of the season, then wore off a little bit. Will they do the same this season? Nobody really knows. But again, you'd like to see Newcastle winning that game with the squad that they've got, but it could be a tricky one. Wolves away, again, should be a Newcastle win, but could be a little bit tough because we know how Wolves can play at home. And then Fulham away. Again, Fulham at home can be good, but you'd like to see Newcastle winning that game with the squad that they do have. So the players that I've chose to focus on here are Dan Burn and Kieran Trippier, two defenders who are good in their own way. So starting off with Dan Burn, 32 starts last season, 2 goals, 2 assists. So out of that Newcastle defence, Dan Burn is the one to get forward for corners and set pieces, which is why he can get goals and can be a good asset for you, especially if they're not keeping a clean sheet. When Burn started last season, they only kept 8 clean sheets, but Newcastle in general didn't keep many clean sheets last season, so I wouldn't let that put you off too much. He got 97 points, but he didn't start every game, and because he wasn't keeping those clean sheets, his points weren't the best. If you are looking for a 4.5 million defender to go for from Newcastle, who have a good run, I think Burn is that one to go for, and I think he will be the one to start near enough every game. And with those first few games, if they do get a set piece, like whether it be a corner or a free kick, I think Burn could be a nice asset to go for in case he does get a goal from one of them. But I wouldn't say he's essential to go for, but he is a nice option to have. The other one that I've gone for is Trippier, coming in at 6 million as he did last season. But there is a reason why. He's on near enough every set piece. If we look at the heat map there, he's on every corner. He takes near enough every free kick. And on that right-hand side, he gets forward an awful lot and gets those crosses into the box. He got 10 assists last season, and he only started 26 games because he was out injured. So 10 assists in 26 is still really nice, in my opinion. His expected assist was 6.97, which is expected for a defender. And there's a right back that gets forward. He plays more of like a right wing back position. So when he does get forward a lot, if he's starting every game this season, as he probably would have done last season if he wasn't injured, I think he is a nice asset to go for. But for 6 million, you might think it's a little bit excessive, which is why Dan Burn is there as well. But I think having a Newcastle defender for those first few game weeks isn't a bad option to go for with the games that they've got. So the final team that I'm going to be looking at today is Nottingham Forest. They've got 4 out of 5 really nice fixtures to start the season. The only bad game in there is that Liverpool game on week 4. So if we have a look at them, they've got Bournemouth at home for that first game, which is a really nice fixture. Then Southampton away, a newly promoted side, so again a really nice fixture. Wolves at home could be a bit tricky, but at home you'd like to see Forest winning that. Again, Liverpool away is almost guaranteed a loss, unless Liverpool play really bad on the day, which they could do under a new manager, nobody knows. And then Brighton away, again, could be a difficult fixture, but you'd like to see Forest maybe getting a point out of that. So out of those 5 fixtures, I think Forest could get maybe 2 wins, 2 draws. So I don't think it's bad having some Forest assets. So if you look at the players that I've gone for here, I've gone for Chris Wood and Morgan Gibbs-White. So if we go with Chris Wood first, he got 20 starts last season, and he was Forest's top goal scorer with 14 goals. He had 11.71 expected goals, which is just a bit less than the goals that he did get. But in 20 starts, I don't think 14 goals is bad. 131 points as well, so he was coming off the bench at times when he wasn't starting, so definite asset to be keeping an eye on, especially in pre-season, to see if he is that starting striker. But with the 1 year being there as well, I think it would be a toss-up between those two of who does start, so Wood is one to keep an eye on. The other player is Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he's guaranteed starts. He got 35 starts last season. If he doesn't get injured this season, it'll be 38 starts. He's on near enough every set piece for Forest. If you look at the heat map there, he's on every corner, and where he plays in that central attacking midfield role, so he does cover the entire attacking length of that pitch. And he's on near of every free kick, I think, as well. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on. At 7 million as well, I don't really think you can go wrong. He's a cheaper asset. than some of the others like Palmer from Chelsea, and with a decent run, I think he could be one to keep an eye on. 142 points last season. He was Forest's top point scorer with 12 assists and 5 goals as well. Most of those assists coming off those set pieces. So I definitely want to keep an eye on in pre-season. So there we have it, guys. They're the 9 teams with the best fixtures to open the Premier League season for the first 5 game weeks. So I want to know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of the fixtures that those 9 teams have? Or is there any teams that you think have missed out? And also, are you going to be going for any players from the teams that we've looked at today? As always, if you did enjoy the video, hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. And until next time, thank you for watching.